There we go. All right. So yeah, the you said you were at county convention and training a bunch of new precinct delegates. Yeah, tell us about that.
So we took on somewhere in the neighborhood of about 235 new precinct delegates that are all like-minded Christian conservatives, uh, where we really feel like we had to get involved. And the really unique part is probably hearing all the different stories of what people went through and why they became involved. It's all about people loving this country and wanting to fight for it, whether it be because of their families and their kids, or whether it be because of the fact that their freedoms were taken away.
Yeah.
And so at that point, it becomes, it just really becomes kind of the American story. We all, you know, we all be, all of our ancestors came to America at one point for one reason or another. And, my family came here from the Netherlands. Originally, they fled France because of the persecution of the Huguenots back in the 1600s. And so the whole family moved to the Netherlands. And then later on, that a couple of brothers came here from the Netherlands, and that's where my family came from. Kind of a little bit about my background, but it's neat to see that American story continuing and growing. The passion, sometimes I think our passion needs to get reined in a little bit. But that passion is what gets us all involved and gets us to the final end result. So it's been pretty neat, a pretty neat adventure so far.
Okay. So you guys were at the county convention. Was that just for our county, or was that for precinct delegates all over the state?
We had so ours was on August 11th.
Hmm.
It was for Ottawa County, they were all over the state. A lot of them went down on the same day. Kent County had a fantastic county convention event as well. They had the plan of taking over their county convention right from the get-go. We chose to take a little more subtle approach, and we ended up taking over the county convention as well.
Okay.
So our chairman was replaced at one point, and we did, we had like one subtle portion of our plan going in that we were going to stick to. We ended up sticking to that, but the people really spoke up. They were somewhat disappointed. There was supposed to be a training that night. It never ended up happening. And so thankfully, we kind of trained and came alongside a great group of patriots and gave them enough information so they weren't overwhelmed at the convention. Because there is a lot to it, it's if you start looking at what the responsibilities are at the convention, of course, the county convention is all about putting the people that you want into voting positions for the state convention.
Hmm.
And so we had a pretty successful venture on that. I want to say we ended up with roughly about 65 of the 80 voting slots for state convention that are all America First people.
All right. That's perfect.
So we got a really great majority going into that. Should be, Lord willing, it should be a really great state convention. From what I'm hearing from my brothers and sisters all over the state, is a lot of counties had that same thing happen, where the America First Patriots kind of took over a lot of the counties across the state of Michigan.
That's awesome. Yeah, we definitely need America First people in there, and people that aren't so taken by this leftist ideology. I know we had some problems with that in our Ottawa County Board of Commissioners. Thankfully, that problem looks like it's been resolved, and So I'm excited to see what's coming for Ottawa County and for the state. I talked with Rachel Atwood as well. I know she's another precinct delegate here in Ottawa County. What are you guys voting on at the state convention?
So they did things a little differently this year. We actually had what we're calling an endorsement convention in April,
Okay.
where we endorsed Christina Caramo and Matt DePerno to be our next Secretary of State and Attorney General. Because of the way the laws are written, we have to confirm those endorsements at this next convention. So I know there's some talk that they think they might be trying to pull a fast one and bring Mr. Leonard back in towards the Attorney General slot, but I don't think that's going to happen. They would have to have a 75% majority for that to happen.
Okay.
And with this movement moving all across the state, I really would be, I mean, I don't even think they'd get a third of the vote.
Okay.
So I know we're supposed to choose the lieutenant governor spot. Tudor Dixon, our governor-elect, I guess you would call her, is supposed to let us know who her pick is for lieutenant governor by the 19th. So I think who she chooses will speak very loudly to the masses of who she really is.
Yeah.
We are hoping for a more conservative candidate. We don't know who that's going to be at this point, although there has been some rumblings that it might be Leonard. I don't see that being what the people want.
Okay.
So I am hopeful that I know I've heard some rumblings that some people might make an endorsement of a lieutenant governor. But I mean, it's just been kind of rumblings from the people, and so I'm not really at liberty to discuss that. But I know with an America First majority, obviously we could choose who that person is, but we also want to make sure that it's somebody that's workable with the existing candidate, so they're not just sitting in an office for 4 years.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. So you mentioned endorsing Matt DePerno and Christina Caramo. Now there's been this story circulating about Matt DePerno getting one of the voting machines, and he's been looking into all that. Have you heard anything about that?
Well, from my perspective and from the evidence that I've seen, there was definitely some election fraud issues in the last election.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, one of the reasons I think we truly appreciate Matt DePerno is for the fight that he's led up until now. So we're really super hopeful. I know the left has really been coming after him.
Oh yeah.
And trying to I don't know that I would say scare people away from voting for him, but I want to say that they're trying to steer the election like he's a criminal when in all reality he's a patriot.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems weird to me. I've seen a lot of from MLive and Detroit Free Press, even the Detroit News, they're all, oh my gosh, Matt DePerno is looking at our election equipment. How dare he? And just it kind of seems like you're the press. You don't want to know what's going on with our election equipment. Like, isn't that kind of what you guys are there for? But I'm hopeful about what he's been doing, and he's a lawyer, so I'm pretty sure he knows the laws, and hopefully he's on the right track there. Let's see. So with the I'm not sure if you've seen anything about the Michigan Department of Education and their most recent meeting. There's a group called Restore Ottawa doing really good work on all that, just kind of releasing videos one after the other that I've been seeing. Have you seen anything from the Michigan Department of Education about their stance on transgenderism and keeping stuff from parents and boys in the girls' locker rooms and all that?
Yeah, so I mean, you're doing the deep dive into DEI,
Yeah.
which is one of the points that got me running for office. Uh, Diversity, equity, and inclusion is nothing of the sort. It is they are running transgenderism down the throats of our kids. And one of the reasons I ran for office is to run DEI out of Ottawa County. And it is a terrible thing to put this information and these kind of ideals on our kids and our grandkids.
Mhm.
I'm not really totally understanding of exactly how deep it's into all of our school systems, but it is to some degree embedded in every one of our school systems across the state, and they tie funding to it and everything else. So it's one of the things that makes me passionate, because you can read your Bible, and it's pretty easy to understand. There's two genders,
Mhm.
and what they're pushing on kids in those formidable years is a crime. They're trying to desensitize pedophilia. They're putting books with this transgenderism and sexuality things into our libraries. And, as you know, they defunded Jamestown Library for that very reason.
Yes.
And it's a great thing. That's what we need to do. We need to take away their funding, and we need to run them out of Ottawa County and the state of Michigan, because it's, they're coming for our kids, and it's up to us to stand in the way.
Absolutely. So we so let's say we get rid of funding. We get rid. So there are groups like the Momentum Center of Grand Haven. They run in Grand Haven and Holland and stuff. Very far left, very um, active in the LGBTQ campaign. What can citizens do to curtail their influence in our communities? Because they're not really, I mean, they are working with the government right now, but say we get them out of the government. Is there anything further that we can do to like put penalties on them, or do you support anything like that?
Well, I think we take away their funding, first of all. And then I encourage parents to show up at the school board meetings, to pay attention to who Ottawa Impact is supporting for those school boards, and vote those people out.
Okay.
We need to take this on just like we did with the precinct delegate thing. We need to fix this system from the ground floor up. And that doesn't mean expecting our governor, whoever it may end up being, to make those decisions. Lord willing, it's Tudor Dixon over Gretchen Whitmer. But we need to replace all those people that are in power that are threatening people like Dana Nessel, that are changing election laws like Jocelyn Benson. There's a reason why we need to replace every one of those officials, but we need to be active and we need our voices heard. So we need to be at those school board meetings. We need to be at those county commissioner meetings. There's a reason we lost. The only election we lost was that slot for Grand Haven this year for county commissioner. And she was an excellent candidate. That was a three-person runoff for that slot. So that took some additional votes away from her.
Hmm.
Plus, we need closed primaries. We can no longer afford to have Democrat voters crossing into our primaries and choosing our candidates. And I think that's a lot of what happened in Grand Haven this year. I still think it's a pretty 50-50 split there. And I think at the end of the day, we really closing our primaries to Republican voters only, and making it so if you vote in the Republican primary, that's the only choice you can make come election time in the fall. So there's a lot of things involved. It's kind of a loaded question you got there, Thomas, and but it's true. I mean, it's just we all need to get involved at some level, whether it be the precinct delegate level, the school board level, how those different things are met and handled. Going to those meetings and telling our commissioners and our school board people what's important to us, and the fact that our kids' future is not in their hands; it's in our hands. It does all come back to we the people. This choosing candidates based on choosing candidates based on big donors and things like that. That it needs to become a thing of the past. Yes, we still need donations, for the Republican Party, and one of my goals moving forward is that we start getting those donations again, but not based because they are buying influence, but based on we the people, that we chose to be elected officials so we could stand up for our constituents. It is about the whole group of people in Ottawa County and the state of Michigan that we band together and we vote our values. We vote those things that are important to our people. I'm not pushing my agenda on people. People know me. People know what I stand for. At the end of the day, they voted for me because of the way I am, because I vote the Bible and the Constitution. That's the most important things I think we can look at going into an election, especially when it's involved in saving our kids and our families. So that's why, Joe from Ottawa Impact, I really love one of his slogans, which is faith, family, and freedom. And there's so much to that statement. It really can take you on a deep dive into all the different reasons we do things the way we do.
Absolutely. So for the closed primaries, that's something that definitely I support as well. That would be something that would be a state legislative initiative. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So we got to get our state legislators in there and let them know. I think Luke Meerman is mine. So is that something that have you talked to Luke Meerman at all? Is that something that's on his radar?
I've known Luke for a little over 20 years, and I think collectively what we have in Lansing currently is we have some America First patriots there.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of rhinos that need to be voted out. And we have a lot of people that are afraid to speak up because of what the rhinos have done to the people that have spoken up in the past. So we really need those politicians need to step forward with an America First stance if we're ever going to beat the system. Because I'm just going to call it what it is. A lot of it is a corrupt system. And we need to bring America First patriots in there so they're passing those rules and laws for we the people, not because they're voting because they're afraid. They're afraid to stand up against the establishment, the rhinos. They're afraid to be censured or what have you from our governor, from our attorney general. These people in these current positions have abused their power and they've gone after people. So I really think we need to look at them one at a time, who's in Lansing. And if they're not voting the way they want, the way we need them to as citizens, then we need to vote those people out. And, at the end of the day, you and I have talked about this in the past. We need transparency and accountability in Lansing. And those are the two things that are going to fix our state and our county.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have no transparency at the governor's level. I don't know if you know Charlie LaDuff. He's doing some good work over in Detroit, but he's had a sit down interview with Tudor Dixon, and Governor Whitmer just refuses to sit down and talk with him. So I think he's working on a piece right now about how selective the Democrat Party is, and how selective even a lot of the Republicans are about who they talk to, and what kind of questions they're asked. Um, so I do have one more question for you. There have been uh, there's been some talk that as we're voting in American First candidates, as we get to the generals, like let's say John Gibbs. We got John Gibbs in there as our candidate, but then when he gets to the general, because he's quote radical, that he will not be able to beat the Democrat um, uh, candidate. So would you still, like, say you knew the Family First Republican isn't going to win, would you still continue to support them as the candidate, even if that lowers their chance of winning?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think the first thing we need to do is educate the public on how to choose America First candidates. It gets, and I'm sure you've seen it as well. I research every single person I vote for, and if you've noticed, a lot of times if they're a rhino, their social media has been scrubbed, so you
Mhm.
can't really tell how they stand on certain issues. Where an America First candidate, I think as an America First candidate, we put it out there more so people know who we are. They know why they're voting for us. It's the uneducated, and I say that loosely. It's not knowing the difference between the two, and uh, sometimes the rhinos try to pick up on that America First thing, and they misrepresent themselves as an America First candidate when they're not.
Yeah.
So that's where we really need the transparency and accountability, the reporting, maybe coming up with a score for each politician on what their platform is, how they vote. John Gibbs, I think, is a great example of that. John Gibbs is a phenomenal individual that will rock that Congress the way it needs to be rocked. Peter Meyer was an absolute poor choice. When he ran the first time, he ran against who he ran against was more of a rhino than he was, where he kind of hid how he believed on certain issues. And then he got to Washington and did the complete opposite what he was elected to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he very consistently crossed that line and votes with the Democrats. I think the people spoke, and he is not the choice for West Michigan, even though the demographic changed in area number 3 where he represents. John Gibbs is the kind of person, I never saw so many people impassioned to fire a politician as I did in the Gibbs Meyer race. And I planted signs across 3 counties for John Gibbs, and it wasn't because I was part of the campaign, which is the funny part. He actually has his campaign office in the corporate sales office for our company, and I have clients all across the state, and anybody that was in District 3 was asking for those signs and asking if I could deliver them when I would be up in the area. And I'm like, well, I'll pick one up when I'm at the office. So I actually did plant a lot of signs, and I wasn't even part of the group. Although I am friends with a lot of the people on the Gibbs team. I think John Gibbs is a great America First candidate. He's a great patriot. I think he will do us very well in Congress. I guess I'm a little prepared to see how they tried to manipulate the numbers in the fall. And but I believe he is the candidate, and we've proved that if we show up to vote for him, he will win.
I think so.
And so we need to make sure we're showing up to vote, and that we help educate people to become more aware of how to pick out these America First candidates.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking to me for a little bit. I'm gonna stop the recording here.